Thank you very much for inviting me here today. It's great to be here. And I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting today and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. CSIRO, Australia's National Science Agency, was established more than 100 years ago, and we have 75 years of space science heritage. 50 years ago, we played a key role in supporting NASA's Apollo 11 mission to the moon. NASA is calling for a return to the moon with international participation, and Australia is uniquely positioned and eager to take advantage of this opportunity. As you've just heard, the Australian Space Agency was established with the goal of tripling the size of the Australian space industry in terms of economic value and jobs by the year 2030. Investing in R&D to assist Australian industry growth and solve Australia's greatest challenges is CSIRO's core role. CSIRO aims to be a key technology partner to the Australian Space Agency, driving technological innovations and providing science and research facilities that will support the agency's industry growth goal. Now, as I mentioned before, CSIRO has 75 years of space science heritage. We host several national space facilities, including the Australia Telescope National Facility, or ATNF, and the Canberra Deep Space Communication Complex, or CDSCC. The ATNF includes 3 radio telescopes here in New South Wales at Parkes, Narrabri and Coonabarabran, plus the Australian Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder in Western Australia, which is an array of 36 antennas, and you can see part of it in the top right there. Australia is uniquely positioned in the Southern Hemisphere to support international space missions through the provision of tracking and communication services. CSIRO was recently appointed to provide operational support for the European Space Agency's Deep Space Tracking Station at New Norcia in Western Australia. And we also manage the operations of CDSCC, which is one of 3 stations worldwide that make up NASA's Deep Space Network. CDSCC is currently tracking around 40 deep space missions, including the well-known Voyager 2 spacecraft. This is one of my favourites. After 42 years, it's now approximately 18 billion kilometres from Earth, travelling through interstellar space. And due to Voyager 2's southward trajectory out of the solar system and its distance from Earth, our CDSCC tracking station and our Parkes radio telescope are now the only 2 facilities in the world that are capable of having contact with that spacecraft. CSIRO has had world-leading capabilities in Earth observation data analytics, calibration and validation for decades, which is coordinated by the CSIRO Centre for Earth Observation. This centre is also home to our first CubeSat, which is shown here on the lower right, which is under development in partnership with Adelaide space technology company Innovore Technologies and is due to be launched from the International Space Station later next year. The Centre for Earth Observation also manages our 10% capacity share of the UK-operated Novasar-1 satellite, which is on the top right here, which is expected to become fully operational in the next few months. Novasar-1 is a synthetic aperture radar satellite, which can operate day and night and through smoke and cloud, making it well suited to assisting with managing many of our bushfire and flood challenges. This image on the left is one of the very first images of Australia collected by Novasar-1, and our location are actually in that image. And the remarkable part about this image is that it was actually collected at night. CSIRO will operate our share of Novasar-1 as a national facility for all researchers to access. In addition to these activities, our newest space research program is the Space Technology Future Science Platform, or Space FSP, which I lead. The aim of this program is both to further develop CSIRO's space capabilities and to identify and develop the science to leapfrog traditional space technologies and to identify new areas for Australian industry to work in. Areas in which we can leverage our existing space and terrestrial capabilities for new space application, and in which Australia can be globally competitive in order to support the Australian Space Agency's industry growth goals. The Space FSP was established in November last year, with a program lifetime currently of 3.5 years. Over the past 12 months, the Space FSP has already initiated 22 projects with a total program value now of over $21 million already. Our activities focus on the national civil space priorities outlined by the Australian Space Agency and address a wide array of opportunities, including advanced satellite technologies, particularly in relation to CubeSats and small satellites, including power, control and sensing systems, structural technologies and onboard data processing. We're looking at remote operations and in situ resource utilisation, including new technologies for off-Earth resource exploration and synthetic biology approaches to resource extraction. We're looking at projects related to human factors and biomedical technologies to better support human space missions. We're carrying out projects in Earth observation data analytics and applications development, new high bandwidth space communication technologies using optical and terahertz band links, and new techniques for space situational awareness. I'll just spend a couple of minutes expanding on a few projects as examples. NASA is planning to return humans to the moon by 2024 and establishing a permanent human presence there. And there's a lot of interest in accessing valuable lunar resources, particularly water ice, to support such missions. Remote mining operations and asset management are already a strength of the Australian resources sector, and applying this to the space environment through in situ resource utilisation is a challenge that we're looking to play a role in. The Space FSP has 4 projects in the robotics, remote operations and resource utilisation area. And one of these projects is developing a predictive analytics software platform to produce 3D resource models of the moon and asteroids and other bodies to support future prospecting and resource utilisation planning. We're also looking at potential opportunities relating to providing space analogue facilities here in Australia, which encompasses everything from Mars surface analogues, of which we already have some, to microgravity facilities, to digital twins. In the materials and manufacturing domain, one of our projects is demonstrating novel additive manufacturing techniques, namely electron beam melting and cold spray for INVAR, which is a very low coefficient of thermal expansion alloy, to create metallic composite components, including precision optics mounts for CubeSats. So using these manufacturing techniques, the mechanical properties of the composite component can be tailored in different locations on that component. Moving to space biomedicine, experimental labs in a cube based on the CubeSat format are a permanent fixture on the International Space Station, like the US Tango lab that's shown here in the top right, where you simply take along your lab in a box and you slot it into that facility on the ISS. One of our projects is developing a new lab in a cube testing platform called an OptoCube, which will enable human cells, particularly bone cells, to be studied on the ISS. And the OptoCube is unique in that it will use light as the only stimulus to control cells and to detect results, so the experiments are able to be completely contactless. We're also in the preliminary stages of exploring opportunities related to biomanufacturing for healthcare in space and space agriculture. So the projects I've mentioned here are not an exclusive list of what we're doing, and the Space FSP currently runs until mid-2022, and we will be continuing to invest in new activities over the next 2.5 years. And we also partner on other R&D programs to build space industry capability, like the DMTC High Altitude Sensor Systems program and the SmartSat CRC. All of these investments, of course, produce the best outcomes when they're done in partnership with other research organisations and with industry, which provides that path to market for these new technologies. And we welcome opportunities for new collaborations. CSIRO looks forward to continuing to work closely with the Australian Space Agency and Australian industry on the next giant leaps to Moon, Mars and beyond. Thank you.